Good afternoon. It's about time to have a beer with the Old Growler here. I'm Pete LaFrance, the Old Growler. It's good to see all of you here again today. This is the Old Growler number 20. Today is the 17th of April, 2020. Let's see. What else is there about it? This is the 32nd day of New York being in the pause state, so to speak. So all of the only the essential industries and businesses are staying open, and fortunately, one of the major industry, I'm thinking exclusive industries that has to be open is our let's see. Grocery stores, pharmacies, liquor stores, and that's about it. So the bars and taverns, of course, there are none. I mean, you just they're closed. And so I figure that, well, why don't I invite folks to come and visit me? If I can't go and have a beer out at the bar with my favorite bartender and my favorite barfly friends, why can't I invite the rest of the world to have a beer with me at 5 o'clock? And it's 5 o'clock. Oh, dear. And the Old Growler has got himself a growler. Picked it up across the way at the Henry Street Ale House. And that's where I used to hang out. In fact, if you watch some of the other videos, not the feeds, but the videos that in the playlists that I have on this channel, you'll be able to go, and especially go to the tastings at the Henry Street Ale House, and you can see what we used to do every Thursday, and that is to have a beer, take a look at the label, have what was called meeting expectations, but I'm going to tell you about that later. Right now, I'm going to open this up. This is a Captain Lawrence Pilsner. Got a Captain Lawrence Pilsner here. Let's see if I can pour it into a pint glass without spill. Now, I can either pour it into the. No, come on, do it this way, Peter. It's a lot easier. Fresh from the tap. I tell you, it's a pretty good bar I got here. Especially beer. We have new beers, and we have old beers, and we have fun beers to taste. And I'll kind of go, oh, enough of that. All right. Dusty glass, so you can see it. In fact, if you ever see bubbles like that on your glass, you'll know that you should have rinsed it or wiped it with a lint-free cloth, because that gives bubbles. And, well, I don't care. It's after 5. Greetings. Thanks for the thumbs up. And cheers. Na zdrowie. Prost. I'm thirsty. Oh, that was good. Oh, dear. Yes, that was. That is. Let's see now. I've been practicing scripting, and it's coming along fairly well. Let's see now. Okay. Yep. The date and the time. That's all kind of explained. Well, it is 5 o'clock. That's why we're doing it. And I kind of explained a little earlier why the Old Growler came about, because they closed down. As being a journalist, I've covered the hospitality industry, the beer, the fermented malt beverage. Hey, Mary, how's it going? Industry. I started freelance writing about the microbreweries when they were just starting out, and I started writing for publications like Beer, All About Beer magazine. I don't think I ever wrote for Zymergy, but many of the brews papers. And I picked up also bar magazines, Top Shelf, Cheers, Beverage Media, which I ended up editing. But anyway, so I've been covering the industry for a while. And when they closed down the pubs and bars, man, I mean, that was part of my job. It was to go out and interview. There are a lot of there's at least 15 or 16 videos on this channel of me having a chance to interview some of the brewmasters, and that has always been, it's to interview brewmasters, chefs, bartenders, and to essentially in bars, and for at least, if I was lucky, 3 or 4 hours out of a day, and certainly 2 hours out of a day for a lunch. I do give myself a lunch break. So this is quite a, and anyways, just to prove that I've actually, take a look for beer basics or cooking and eating with beer, both of those, John Wiley and Sons. There still might be a few issues of copies out there somewhere. I certainly hope so, because they were published back in, oh, 90, no, yeah, 95 and 97, or 95 and 96. So a while ago. So now it's time to talk to you folks. So I'm hoping that since I can't get out and talk to brewers and talk to folks out in pubs and bars and taverns, well, I can only hope that some of you folks will come visit me, because it's rather, hey Monica, how are you? Good to see you. It's tough drinking alone. Well, it's not tough drinking alone. It could be done. And I could sit here and talk to the wall, and rather than into a camera. So anyways, it's good to see we've got at least 3 folks here today. I'm kicking myself because I had done talked yesterday about railroads and pub and inns, how the inns and pubs and bars, being that I've been locked out of my bar, I've done some research, and how the history of hospitality in North America developed in the 18th century, and how towards the north it was based on inns and taverns and stagecoach lines, and if you was going towards the south, it was pretty much your own transportation or by boat. And once you got on land, it was either you rode a horse and you went from plantation or a large farm to someone would be a major shipper or something along one of the rivers. You'd stop in, and it was a hospitality thing rather than an inn, and it would take you, of course, 5 to 6 times as long, but that was the culture, and that was what it was like. And I was talking about the railroads, and how the railroads going west was the way to develop food service and lodging for people that were travelers, and how along the lines, especially, it was important that a town would be put on a rail line, because then they would be important. If they were left off a rail line, they were in big trouble. Similar to in the 50s, when the interstate highway system was put in. If you were on the interstate, you did pretty well, but boy, if you were on one of those black line roads, you withered and died. But I mentioned women working on the railroads in the food service industry, and I couldn't remember. I know that they were such a thing as the Pullman porters were ubiquitous. They were iconic. Well, these were also iconic young ladies that worked in the restaurants for the railroads, and I couldn't remember their names, and so I did a little research, and I found that these were called the Harvey Girls, and I do believe Judy Garland was in a movie about the Harvey Girls, which was pretty much the story of this. And the thing is, there was a fellow by the name of Fred Harvey, and he owned the Harvey House chain of restaurants, hotels, and other hospitality industry businesses, along with food processing, along the railroad lines. And the Harvey, it was founded in 1876 by Fred Harvey to cater to the growing number of train passengers. In 1883, Harvey implemented a policy of employing a female white-only serving staff. He sought single, well-mannered, and educated American ladies and placed ads in newspapers throughout the East and the Coast and Midwest for white young women 18 to 30 years of age, of good character, attractive, and intelligent, to be paid $18.50 a month plus room and board, a generous income by that time. The women were subjected to a strict 10 p.m. curfew administered by a senior Harvey girl who assumed the role and responsibilities of the house mother. They had a black and white uniform with LC collars. No makeup was allowed, and they were required to enter into a one-year employment contract and forfeited half of their base pay should they fail to complete the terms of the service. And marriage was probably the most common reason for a girl to terminate her employment. And the reason for that was, according to this piece, the comedy cowboy philosopher Will Rogers was being quoted about the Harvey girls. In the early days, the traveler fed on the buffalo. For doing so, the buffalo got his picture on a nickel. Well, Fred Harvey should have his picture on one side of the dime and one of his waitresses with her arms full of delicious ham and eggs on the other side, because they've kept the West supplied with food and wives. Now, I grant that's misogynistic, but as I say, that was the Harvey girls, and that was what I was referring to when about the implementation of, or the traveling, how travel and how lodging and accommodations for travelers has been part of American culture and has been part of the development of our, boy, when you start going into the settlement of the West, I hesitate to say our civilization, because historically our conquering of the West, Western states, involved eventually having people. They did not people did not have homes. I mean, you built a home, of course, if you had the ranch there, but towns were brought up, built, and usually along either stagecoach, wagon train trails along the Oregon Trail, or probably along rivers if there was transportation. But there were always inns and taverns, because that was what Americans were traveling. Okay, so that was the Harvey girls, and I wanted to make sure that I had that talked about, because once I bring up a subject, I kind of like to follow it and see where it goes. And I know this Harvey thing is going to have to. I'm going to take a look at the oldest inns, because California, of course, was settled by the Spanish, and I'm interested to look into the inns and how they had the hospitality of the West Coast. Being on the East Coast, I naturally started here. So one of the things that happens. Okay, if you're just a newbie here, just found the place, I certainly hope you did, and I'm glad you did. Please, first of all, don't hesitate to subscribe, to share us with any of your friends and neighbors that you might think might be interested in watching us as well, and give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. I see I've got a couple of thumbs up already, and I thank you all for that. Today, let's see here. Today we're going to be tasting we're going to be retasting a beer, and there will be a link to the original tasting, the Meeting Expectations. We're going to have a Young Upstart IPA from Liar's Bench in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we're going to have a Brooklyn beer, and this is from Inneborough Spirits and Ales. It's they work together with another brewery, with Pipeworks Brewing Company, and they age. This is a Russian Imperial Stout cocoa blend, and we're going to have a Russian Imperial Stout here. It's 12% alcohol, which is pretty exciting. But the pièce de résistance, the reason I am here tonight, and semi-celebrating. I'm celebrating. I think this is the fourth. Let me do the math here and take a look at the calendar because I can't do math. 1, 2, 3. This is the end of the. This is the end of the month. This is the the 20th. Figure that out, Peter. 4 times 5. Presentation of the Old Growler, and so I'm gonna crack open a piece of work here, and this is a Thomas Hardy's Ale. Thomas Hardy's Ale bottled in 2008. And it says, let's see if I've got my stuff on the back here. Bottle conditioning in the secondary fermentation in the bottle during which Thomas Hardy Ale develops a unique, rich, and yummy. Stored in an upright place. If disturbed before serving, which it would not be disturbed. But here's what I'm looking for. Bottles of this rare bottle conditioned classic have kept for at least 25 years, maturing in flavor like fine wine. So that's what we've got here. But this one is, I'll say this is brewed by Hanlons Brewing Company in Devon, England. So it is known to age, and it is marked at 11.7% alcohol. So we'll see the new Russian Imperial Stout and the rather elderly Thomas Hardy Ale. And wait a minute, yes, those are going to be the 2 high alcohol contestants. So if you are new and you haven't been with me since meeting expectations and watching the other videos that we have put up over the last 2 years, meeting expectations goes this way. We get together at the Henry Street Ale House, Jerry Scott and Jim Bennis, myself, and usually 1 or 2 other folks, and we take a look at a bottle or a can of beer and read the label, or the information that's on the label, take a look at the artwork and see what we expect this particular thing to be. So that is what we're going, this is what how we're going to work it. And that will, I need another drink. I need another beer. Oh, that was good. Although I am running a little low on that. I hope the rest of you have been, I hope you've survived the week. There's 3 of you here, so I know you've survived the week, which is an accomplishment. Pat yourselves on the back. I intend to do the same to myself. Little things are important. So staying to schedules. And for those of you who are going to watch this in a good year later or so, this is what a semi-diary of what it was like to go through the COVID-19 virus here in Brooklyn, New York. You newitures that are watching, you can already fathom that I'm sitting here drinking and alone and talking to a camera. So that shows what was going on. Oh dear. Man, back on the, if I may return to the topic of hospitality, and in particular, touch into the situation that we're in today, where, and this is a situation I believe, and since we're on my bar, I'm going to talk about it. I've got this feeling that, well, first of all, there's a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty, people naturally want answers. As a journalist, I think that's the, in my own, to myself, speaking to you just as myself, but of course you're yourself, Peter. What's the matter with you? Well, sometimes I'm not myself. Well, then who are you? Never mind. Why? That's the area in my mind always is why. Kind of like a little kid, you know. You tell them that this is that and the other thing. Why? Well, you're going to tell me that the COVID virus is such and such and such, and that's why. And I also want to know when. Oh yeah, who and what and where. Who, what, when, why, and where. The 5 W's. So I'm already reflex to that, and I can only imagine that people who aren't reflexed into that would already want to know when, because that's the whatever it is. When is it going to end? When is it going to begin? And the fact that there's no answers is disconcerting, and especially when you get a federal government saying one thing and state governments saying another, and you lose faith in government after that, or you cling to it like a dog to a bone. But most of the time, it's a lack of faith in government. And looking back in history, and again into looking back into the hospitality industry, back in history, when was there a time that the American public really truly kind of said to the federal government, "We have no faith in you"? One of these things. And I seem to recall a time in the 1920s during a period of time called Prohibition. And in particular, the speakeasies. I believe it's the second time that this has happened this week, to where I've gone to look for something and it has not been where it is supposed to be. The first was for an old can of Schaefer. I was going to take a picture of it and I couldn't find it, and it's not where it's supposed to be. And the second is this book, which I have in my notes that I've done for other materials. I have a quote for it, a quote from it. It's there, but I couldn't find the book. So anyways, it has to do with speakeasies. And Haywood Hale Bruin wrote the piece, the book. And let's see here, I've got the notes. Yes, here it is. I can only research this, I can't memorize it. This is Al Hirschfeld's Speakeasies. And it starts from the beginning. Millions of citizens felt the national movement to make drinking illegal was directed at the cities in general and New York in particular. End of quote. Notes Pete Hamill in the introduction to Hirschfeld's The Speakeasies, 1932, with an introduction by Haywood Bruin. That's where I got the name from. Some of the more notable speakeasies that could be found on Manhattan were Jack and Charlie's at 21 West 52nd, today the 21 Club, still in operation. The Bath Club was at 35 West 53rd, today the Museum of Modern Art. It evolved beautifully. And Zum Brauhaus at 239 East 86th Street in Yorkville, now a furniture store, although I don't think it's a furniture store anymore. If I remember 86th Street when I lived there, if we're talking 239, that's up towards Lexington, so it's probably a theater. But anyway, it's not a speakeasy anymore. Another speakeasy that's still in operation and under its original name is Julius's, 159 West 10th in Greenwich Village, and it has been said that it's to New York what the Café d'Homme is to Paris. Let's see. And where did members of the Fourth Estate relax? The patrons, mostly newspaper men, and the conversations almost entirely the shop and women, was the Press Grill on 152 East 51st Street. That's how it's been described. And further uptown were establishments such as George's Place on 507 Lexington, known for patrons who were, quote, women in their late 30s who learned to drink 10 years earlier. 67 East 59th, Today, the New York City Sports Club. Dry citizens looking for refreshment could find the Strollers, where legend has it the dinner was $1.50, and to regular patrons, however, no checks on Tuesday. So that was a brief look at Hirschfeld's book on the speakeasies. And I do believe there was one that Bruin wrote that mentions all of the places and describes them, but doesn't give the address. In fact, it was published back then. I'll bet you it's in my history. I'll find that. I'm glad the weekend is coming up because it gives me a chance to do a little clear out. It's about time to do some clear out. I'm stumbling over things trying to get bottles off of the beer wall, the wall of beer. Well. Anyhow, let's see. I did my feature story. And now I guess it comes to tastings. It's a little early to do tastings, but I might as well. No, that's the cheat notes for afterwards. I don't want to spoil anybody's expectations, or mine anyway. It's a good thing that I have a short memory when it comes to keeping notes. That way I know that I put it down on a piece of paper. If I've read it, that's it. Goodbye. Not that I forget it, but oh dear, there we go. A little more comfortable. I don't have any bar stools here. I don't. I have ergonomically correct chairs, so I guess that counts. And as most historic, the older drinking establishments in the United States, you can always tell when it has been there a long time. When I mean a long time, probably since, well, give them the credit, just after Prohibition. Probably during Prohibition, but just after Prohibition for sure, is that there are no bar stools. I believe the 21 doesn't have bar, or didn't have bar stools when I was there. Something popped up on the screen here, Google Chrome. Bugger them. McSorley's doesn't have bar stools. City Bar does. Pete's does. I'm trying to remember if the Bridge Cafe had them. I think they did because I remember sitting there waiting for people and learning about martinis. It's always something fun about bars. For me, there was always a chance to learn a little something. If you were unlucky and there was no one else there, at least you had the bartender to talk to, and inevitably it had to range around. Earlier on it was beers, and now it's cocktails as well. Let's see. The New York Sports Club is your gym, and they've been going downhill for years. You see, it's bad karma, man. They should have stayed as a speakeasy. Yeah, you can feel the ghost, I guess, when you go in there. Or this, oh, geez, Peter, don't say it. I'm going to say it anyway. You'll feel the spirits, won't you? Yes. Okay. Had to get that out. Oh, yeah. A month now, huh, Peter? Well, that's just of doing these. You also had an extra week tacked on there where you sat around wondering about doing this. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, 5:27. We're halfway through the shift. No, come on, don't look at it that way. But every once in a while, when you're in a bar, you know, just even in the old days, it was kind of, well, maybe I do have laundry to do, or you know, all right, I should do such a report or whatever. Well, see, if I was in a real bar, I'd be able to make another pun. But I haven't had enough beer or enough conversation with people who are real and live that I can look at and read their faces and imagine things, but no, it's lonely here. Come on now, you can do better than that. Actually, we're going to support one of our regular places. We're going to go and order up steak frites from Bar to Bach on Smith Street, if they're still open. I hope they're still open. And that's a treat for Friday. It used to be to go over to the Bink, the B-I-N-C, which was part of Bravado over in Brooklyn Heights on Henry Street. It was a nice little cocktail bar. Particularly, it had small plates, but their chicken wings were gorgeous. I mean, they were just crispy and spicy, but not too spicy, and with nice iced Manhattans or Manhattans. That usually would be our cocktail of choice. Although when summertime came along, there was beer. But the Bank is it was a cocktail place. It was a cocktail place. I hope is. Let's speak in the present, simply because it makes it easier for me to decide, how to put it. But all of the places that I'm going to talk about do exist. I don't know if they will, but they do. Okay. That's a cocktail bar. So you drink cocktails there. The Ale House is a beer bar. I think I might have ordered a cocktail or two recently, because Jerry has put together a list of cocktails, house cocktails. So I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm positive. I had one of their not vodka martinis. No such thing as a vodka martini. Martini made with gin only. It was another absurd abomination of what they call a martini, but it's not really martini. I had coffee in it. Espresso martini, which I kind of like, but I think the Dark Elf made me one of those there. But that's a beer bar. Bar Great Harry's, the Brazen Head. Both of those are all beer bar. In fact, you can't even get any food in either one of those. So Bar to Bach for me was a wine bar. They did have French beers, but inevitably you would see me drinking wine, usually Vacuras, one of the regular house wines. Heavens no, espresso martini. Not a martini, it's not, but they call it that, and I can't. I could get. If I said one of your espresso drinks, I'd be afraid of what I would get. So I suppose I could always point to it on the menu. Oh dear, but yeah, I have to suffer 2 hours of severe self-flagellation whenever I say the words. The non-gin martini. So, dear oh dear, that's the truth. But there are certain places where you have and there are certain restaurants for us, for myself and wife. That is why I include us, that are seasonal. We like. There's a place called Black Mountain over near the Gowanus. And that's a winter place. I mean, it's cozy, and it's got a fireplace, small plates, nice wines, really comfortable, really comfortable. You go over into Gowanus, actually, it's probably down into no, it's still the Gowanus, close to the slope though. Little Neck, yeah, Little Neck, named after the clam. It is a seafood place, and both their lobster rolls are there's an entire claw and tail in each one of those little babies, and they are great with a beer. Oh, to die for. Uh, I'm trying to tell you where to see some of the pictures I posted about that, but I'll find a way to do that. I agree, Monica. Yes, it is. But that's a fun thing about, oh, well, is the fun thing about being here in this part of New York is that there are so many places that every season. Oh, over here in Brooklyn Heights, noodle pudding for us is that would be a summer place because they open it up and it's Italian and very boisterous, and oh, the pasta there's to die for. Henry's End. Henry's End has been an autumnal place. Well, recently we've been going there, ordering out. They have, oh boy, if you look on, oh gee, where did I post them? But on my Facebook account, you can always find it. They have a lemon sole that is truly just, it's a magnificent, and with a nice dry pilsner. Oh, oh, oh. Amy Gerardo, good to see you. That's it. That's exactly it. But to call that a martini is a sin. It's an absolute sin. So, nod if you agree, that type of thing. A martini is, as I understand it, and as I understand it, the martini started out in the 20s as 50-50 dry gin and dry vermouth. And eventually it got, in fact, I think FDR, that was his recipe, was 50-50. And eventually it got drier and drier and drier until I think it's, not to be too crude, but there's an expression in and out. You just put the dry vermouth in, throw it out, and put the gin on it. Ice, well, stirred, of course. Let's see here. It's a small audience, Amy, but you know something? Since you're here, I'm going to skip ahead to the Thomas Hardy because I know you'll appreciate it. I think, I hope. And so let me get out my church key, and I'm going to crack this open. I've started out with the beer of the day is a Captain Lawrence Pilsner. So I should have told you that, Monica, because I know Steve likes Pilsners. All right. Well, let's see here. Thomas Hardy Ale. We're going to start out with this one right here. We're going to look at it, and it says 1968, celebrating 40 years to 2008. So this is 2008 vintage. Let's see. It is number T31072 edition, brewed and bottled by Hanlons Brewing Company Limited, Wimple, Devon, England. 250 milliliters, 11.7% alcohol by volume. And on the back it says, Britain's strongest ale is a piece of brewing history. Bottles of this rare bottle condition classic have kept for at least 25 years, maturing in flavor like fine wine. And then they explain bottle conditioning to store it upright. If disturbed before serving, stand the bottle for 48 hours to allow settling. Well, I'm not disturbed, so I think we'll try to open it. So I tell you, as far as expecting, I'm expecting something sherry, not terribly viscous, thick, but thin and sherry-like. That would be probably the best way that I could describe it. So I'm not too sure whether it would be a sweet sherry or port sherry, but I have a Brooklyn, as you can see, a Brooklyn snifter to pour that in. So a round of a drum roll for this. Thomas Hardy's Ale 2008. We're going to crack this open. Very little pop. There was a little bit of a hiss on there, but not much. Okay. Well, not too much sentiment in that. Sediment. I wish I had well, let's see if my flashlight works. I'm going to see if it's opaque. Yes. Oh, it's relatively opaque. So we've got a dark beer here. I mean, something you can't see through. All right, let's take an aroma. Real sherry and oak. I'm getting some oak. All right, well, cheers, Amy. Good to see you. You say a chocolate brown. Well, okay. Very vinous, very, very, very winey. But there's some great undertones of malt, sugar candy, caramel. Oh, finishes butterscotch. On the top of the palate, the lasting is butterscotch. No acidity at all. No siree bob. Some chocolate. Yeah. Second sip is chocolate. And a dry finish. Oh no, there's a little bit of coating on the lips on this one. Oh, wow. Boy, oh boy. Well, to the fourth week of isolation, and to quote Sam from Casablanca, oh, this tastes the sting out of being isolated. Oh, wow. Of course, he was drinking champagne. This is it's a lot of fun, and I'm okay. You're a reporter, Peter. Tell him one more. This is coming at you. The range of start again, Peter. Smooth dark chocolate with a touch of raisins and toffee, caramel, and a sweet burnt sugar. Those are the flavors that start from start to finish. Amy, you got my mind working to Is there an acidity in here? If I look for it, there is. But I'm not quite too sure where I'm finding it, whether I'm finding it at the beginning or at the end. And it's disguising itself as being a drying agent, so to speak. Which might be it. Which might be it. All right, I've pontificated enough about this. It has been a real, for me, a real thrill. And let me take a look. I've got a cheat sheet here that is going to go up on the YouTube, so that it has all of the different links, so that all the beers that, well, apparently now this beer that I've mentioned. This is Thomas Hardy's 2000, and this is off the site Beer Advocate. Thomas Hardy's Ale 2008 style English Old Ale, ABV 11.9, from Hanlons Brewing, England. Availability retired, no longer brewed. I guess not. Quote, and I won't bother to quote at the end and beginning here, but I'll just read through pretty much what they say. Pours a clear mahogany with hardly any sediment, if any at all, despite the notice on the label. Correct. Smooth as silk, like a fine red wine. No head or carbonation to speak of. You've already done the carbonation part. A fine red wine, smooth, yes. Raisin and prune beat you over the head up front. This poor guy, I feel sorry for him if he ever bumped into something. Then some leather. Well, I don't know what he's into. And even cherry come out in the finish. I did pick some cherry out, but the rest of that, raisin, there was some raisin in with the chocolate. Yes, I did mention that. A complex brew that builds more as it warms. I'm glad I got this off my checklist, but there are some local breweries near me that are hitting these flavor profiles quite consistently at a much lower price point with much younger barley wines. Okay, how can you have a younger barley? Yeah, you can have a younger barley wine, but, well, I take a few, I would take that with a grain of salt, just as I take any review online with a grain of salt. I found it to be most pleasant, nice pleasant at all. In fact, I would say that it's one of the nice beer. I would like to ask all of you. Again, it's so difficult because I get to taste all of the, well, this wonderful beer, and you folks don't. Man. Oh dear, that has beer tastings are they're fun for me. I like to do it. It's interesting and exciting. Oh boy, there's two more beers here, and I was going to crack them open to start, but I got distracted. It's all your fault, Amy. But we'll save those two till Monday. We'll just move them up to Monday. I'll mark it in the description box below, or find something else to say down there. It's supposed to get 250 words down there so that Google finds you. But let's see. We're at 46. We're running early tonight. We have a smaller crowd, which I salted the minds earlier, trying to let everyone know what we were going to be tasting. Maybe Friday people take off earlier than the rest of the week. But I want to thank everybody for watching. As the rest of you folks can probably read here, his 2018 was produced at the London by Derek Prentice at the Meantime Brewery. Wow. I'll have to get a hold of some and age that one, since now that I know who the brewmaster is. Are you going to cellar those, Hammy? Are you going to? Well, of course you're going to. First of all, how many did you get, and how many of them are you going to cellar, and how many of them are you going to drink now? And I'll give you some time. In fact, now you have allowed me, you've given me a reason to stay here and have another sip. It has been suggested that I do this on Zoom or something like that, but I'm technically rather happy to do this, and it seems to work better. And at least until next Wednesday. Oh yes, I've got a plug next week. Let's see. And then we had the final pages here. I've got to number these things. That's what I've got to do. Yes. Okay. Teaser for next week. The Old Growler. I did mention. I have 4 more. Thomas Hardy is going back all the way to. Oh dear. 1986. So, and I've got a 1989 Anchor winter beer to try. So to celebrate Fridays from now on, there's going to be a specialty beer to taste. On next Wednesday, the 22nd, Norwich University, my alma mater, will be sponsoring a Legacy of Learning beer. They will be beer in the kitchen with myself, and we're going to try and make some beer soup. And I will, on demand, the 23rd of April, that's next Thursday, I will a cappella sing Old Man River. So we've got that, and then again next Friday we have, I'm trying to find the Thomas Hardy for next Friday. Next Friday is going to be a 1992. So that is the program for next week. Monday and Tuesday, I really don't have anything scheduled in, but I will certainly post before every day the beers that we'll be tasting. And let's see, I was going to do the usual closing, and that if you've gotten this far, I do appreciate it, and it has been it's been a lot of fun for me. Jamie, okay, John is now head of the London Brewers Guild, 120 breweries, still brews at the London Brewery. I don't have any. Oh, okay, here we go with the beers. I don't have any. I was at Derek's home last month. He had a couple of cases there. Go back some fuller vintage ales from John Keeling. He's retired. So I'll get you those. Wow, that would be way cool. Way cool. Wow, fantastic. Well, you know how to get in touch with me by email, please. Oh, great. That's fantastic. I'll just repeat it right now. It's peter.lafrance@beerbasics.com. We've communicated back and forth before, but wow, that's fantastic. Great, fantastic. I'll give you the mailing address and that other kind of good stuff, and we'll certainly be able to since I've got another 4 weeks plus 2 weeks is 6 weeks of Old Growler. I think we'll be able to have a tasting on this streamline. So wow, thank you very much. This is fantastic. For the other two who don't know, for Monica, I think you know who Jamie is. You've seen my talking with him and everything. He's just a fantastic guy. And if Mary's still here, you've heard me talk about him. All right, so we're at. Oh wow! We managed to get through. Managed to get through the hour. Come on, Peter. This is fun. You know it. You live for this hour now. Yes, I do. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I thought all the folks for being here. Amy and Monica and Mary, or whoever that third person is. It was super fun to be here with you, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Hold on, let me write that down. Yeah, give me a pen. Sean Penn. No, I don't want Sean Penn. Okay. Google your name is with the space in between. Yeah, why not? Oh, I see. Yeah, sure. Jamie Gerardo Beer. Okay. Hamey. I'm sorry. J-A-I-M-E. Space beer. Way cool. It was very nice. Take care. And as I say at the end of all of the presentations that I do on my meeting expectations, I really hope that right now it's not just all of your beers, but may everything right now that you get through, and I hope that things will meet your expectations.